Hey folks. Yeah, I've got about, let me check, almost about 65 minutes to go. I actually got here about 15 minutes earlier. The reason being is the buses around here have a scheduled routes that, well, it basically makes them come every 80 to 85 minutes. So go figure, right? But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I mean, yes, even though I temporarily had the power go out, I don't know what happened around my area, but apparently it's back on. Seems like it. I'm not really sure. But, again, that's not why I'm here. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about, though, folks, what I want to talk about is what's going on with WWE. Now, I've already talked about Survivor Series and how I see that playing out, how I predict it will go and how I would book it to go. But I want to talk about something else. It's more of a topical question than anything. And that topical question is the WWE trying to make Charlotte Flair like her father? Hear me out. We know that, she's been brought in as the daughter of Ric Flair, a next generation star, all that, right? Genetically superior and all that, we get it. But then after that, she kind of went through a change where they replaced Ric Flair with Dana Brooke. Now, with that said, they've gone, I guess, back a little bit, or they've gone forward, depending on how you look at it, and decided to call Charlotte Flair for name recognition. And that's all cool. You want to go through these little phases, you want to go through these little gimmicks and all that. I'm all cool with that. I'm totally fine with that. But what gets me, folks, though, makes me wonder if they're trying to make her like her father, isn't through the gimmicks, the robes, and all that. No. It's the fact that Charlotte, so far, ever since the reboot, the resurrection, the reincarnation of the Women's Championship, ever since that, she's the only one to have won it more times than anybody, and combined has probably the longest title reign out of the women. Now, I know you could say, well, they're limited on star power as far as the women's division goes on Raw. I get that, I totally do. But even if they were limited on star power, even if they weren't, I should say, limited on star power, why is Charlotte the only one to have 3 reigns? I mean, yes, I get so far the main event picture of the Women's Championship has been focused solely on Charlotte and Sasha, and you're slowly now integrating the likes of Bayley, Dana Brooke, and probably more promptly than anything, Nia Jax, because, the way she reacted towards her Survivor Series teammates kind of indicates she could be the next one in line. But with all that said, does it seem too coincidental that Charlotte has the most reigns so far out of the women? I mean, yes, maybe age-wise, Charlotte might be the oldest. Maybe they want to get the belt on her as much as they can, and everything, so she can go down as one of the greatest women champions of all time. And maybe they're trying to also emulate her father. Hear me out. You see, one thing about second or third generation stars, either they're men or women, is that certain companies, if they're very high on you, they're going to want you to be as successful as the family member that preceded you. In this case, they'll want Charlotte. In this case, if Vince McMahon, according to sources and rumors, is very high on Charlotte, he's going to want her to be he's going to want her to be just as successful as her father. He's going to want her to be the absolute best at what she does. And when you think about it, those sources seem to be true, because within the span of not even a year, I mean, the women's championship was rechristened, resurrected, rebooted, given new life, if you will, at WrestleMania, which was in April? It was the beginning of April. So you got April, you got May, you got June, you got July. That's 4 months, right? August 5, September 6, October 7. 8 months, basically, counting this month, counting now. And in those 8 months, Charlotte has become women's champion 3 times. 3 times. Now you might say it's longer than that because she was the Divas champion. I get that, and I get that. The Divas championship was absorbed, if you will, into the new women's championship. Okay? It was merged, it was unified, right, into the new women's championship. So yeah, you could probably say it's been about a little over a year, and she's had 3 reigns. But you're including the absorption of the Divas title into the women's title. If you look at the women's title on its own, then within the span of not even a year, but 8 months, a little over half a year, Charlotte has had the most reigns out of anybody. And even if you combine the Divas Championship and it being absorbed into the women's title, you could say the same there. I mean, day-wise, weeks, months, she has more reigns than anybody on both Raw and SmackDown. So, again, the question is, why? Why does she have more reigns than anybody else? And again, it goes back to the question, is WWE trying to make Charlotte like her daughter? Like her father? And I think, honestly, in my honest opinion, I think they are. I think they are slowly trying to make Charlotte into the women's version of Ric Flair. I really do. Because here's the thing. Hogan's daughter, even if he comes back next year, he's welcome back. Let's say he's brought back. His daughter doesn't wrestle. His daughter doesn't wrestle. I mean, heck, word's going around, she's going to start her own freaking league. Her own promotion. So, she doesn't really compete. The WWE, as far as overall all the women, has snubbed Natalya, who, despite how you feel she's portrayed, is probably the best and most deserving woman out of both rosters, both brands, to be women's champion. And heck, now you have The Rock's cousin or relative, and Nia Jax finally probably getting a whiff at the Raw Women's Championship. It's like, what's taking them so long? And to me, it's like they're favoring Charlotte over everybody else because she's the daughter of Ric Flair. Because of the fact she's the daughter of Ric Flair. And I believe, in my opinion, they're trying to make her like him. They're trying to make her into the next Ric Flair. They're trying to give her the most reigns out of any woman out there. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised within the next few years, if not the next year, she ties and maybe even breaks Trish Stratus' record. I wouldn't be surprised by that. Just the way WWE seems to be pushing her. Even though many people have gone on record, insiders, people on the inside, wrestling insiders, people on the inside, anonymous people on the inside of WWE, and even performers themselves have said that Charlotte at times could be a little reckless. She can be dangerous, if you will. And look, I like Charlotte. I really do. I like the fact that she's one of those WWE success stories out there that was trained within the confines of a company like WWE and has made a name for herself. I'm totally cool with that. I respect that. Because if you see someone like Charlotte and you see that and you hear about the fact that she, has started her career within the company that she is women's champion of, or one of the women's champions of, you'd probably think she's not going to be that good, but she's proven to be better than we thought. But again, despite all that praise, despite that respect, is WWE showing too much favoritism? Is it because she's the father of Ric Flair, who is good friends, sort of a mentor still, if you will, to Triple H, Paul Levesque, who is the son-in-law of Vince McMahon? Is it because of all that? Is it because Vince is high on her? This is what makes you wonder, if the WWE is favoring her. Because to me, I have nothing against wanting to make someone a second generation star, just like the predecessor, just like the parent, just like the uncle, the father, the mother, the aunt, whatever. I have nothing against that. I have nothing against that whatsoever. I really don't. What I'm against is the fact that out of any other woman wrestler on the roster right now, of both brands combined, she's the only one to get the most reigns. She's the only one to get more reigns, to get more opportunities than any other member. She's got more reigns than any other member of the women's division, both brands combined. She's the only one. And again, I truly believe it's a little bit of favoritism. And here's why I think it's favoritism. Again, it goes back to the fact that she's Ric Flair's daughter. Okay, fine. That's one thing. I get that. Your father is Ric Flair. Your father is close friends, somewhat of a mentor to the son-in-law of Vince McMahon, Triple H. Yes, maybe the chairman himself, the owner, is higher on you because you are the daughter of Ric Flair. Maybe because you have that statuesque look to you, that he likes. Okay, fine. That's all good and all. But in the end, my friends, what does it really mean to anybody else? But in the end, what does it really mean when everybody else is being shunned? When everybody else is being, forgive me for saying this, crapped upon because of that favoritism? It doesn't really mean anything. Unless, of course, you're trying to recreate the Four Horsemen through the Four Horsewomen, or at least a new incarnation of the Four Horsewomen on the main roster. I can understand that. That would make sense. But you got to do it. You got to make it happen, and not just maybe tease at it, maybe not just mention it, or anything like that. You got to make it happen. You got to make it a reality. But another reason I believe Charlotte has this favoritism towards her, the reason I believe Charlotte has this favoritism towards her, if you want to know, the reason I believe Charlotte has this, favoritism, shown towards her, is because unlike Sasha, unlike Bayley, and I think in some ways, maybe unlike Nia Jax, and Alicia maybe in some ways, she's a full homegrown WWE woman's superstar. That's what she is. She's a homegrown WWE women's superstar. That's what Charlotte is. She's never competed on the independents, as far as I know, and anybody else knows. She was mostly trained at the Performance Center. She was brought up in the Performance Center and through that in NXT. So, to me, I think it's mostly because of the fact that she's a homegrown star. She's getting all this special treatment. You might say, well, that's not the case, Brian. That can't be it. They've given Sasha the belt twice. Yes, they've given Sasha the belt twice. But guess what? Sasha only had a reign that lasted barely a month. Yeah, she had it for 1 month. 1 month, and she will lose it. And oh, by the way, when did she ever win the championship on a WWE pay-per-view, either in the main event like they were in for the first time ever for women at Hell in the Cell, in the first ever women's Hell in the Cell match? And oh, by the way, when did she win it on a pay-per-view like SummerSlam? Never. She walked in defending it and losing it. That's what happened. That's what happened. They're basically showing favoritism to Charlotte because of the fact that she's a homegrown star. You know, heck yeah, Vince McMahon blaming Sasha Banks for maybe a botch or some kind of messed up move or finish to the women's Hell in the Cell main event. Really? You're gonna blame her? Here's why he blames her. With all due respect to Vince. Because Sasha is not a homegrown star. Sasha started on the independents, just like Bayley, just like Becky, just like several of those women did. They made a name for themselves in some shape or form in other venues. Independent wrestling, Miami, cheerleading, for the Miami Heat, for an NBA team like the Miami Heat, modeling, you name it. But yet there are those out of those women that will go to a gym, go to a performance center every day if they have to, and get better. And they would try to get better, I should say, to be good at what they do. But here's the thing. It seems that only homegrown stars get special treatment unless they prove that they could shake off the past accolades that they've done in the past. That's the only way they'd get special treatment, if they just shake off the past, put it in the past, focus on the future, focus on if they're just starting out, and there you go. But again, here's going back on topic here. It seems that because Charlotte was mostly homegrown among most of the women wrestlers here on both divisions, she's getting the best treatment there is. I mean, are they playing up the whole genetically superior deal to the heel? Absolutely. But you know what? I think they're only playing it up for a reason. You see, I said that Nia Jax probably started out independently, right? And she probably did. But she wasn't on the independents as long as, let's say, a Sasha or Bayley or Becky. So I think if anybody's going to get the next reign or long reign with that championship next, it's going to be Nia Jax. Here's why. She's the cousin of The Rock. And oh, by the way, even though Rock had a short stint on the indies, mostly in USWA and places like that, he became a homegrown WWE star. And through that, he became who he is now. So guess what? Nia Jax may end up getting similar treatment. Maybe not as special, maybe not as, special, as unique treatment as Charlotte's getting, but she's going to get similar treatment. I guarantee that's going to happen. All because they're homegrown stars. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's why Charlotte's getting what she's getting. It's not because she's just the daughter of Ric Flair. It's not because Vince McMahon is high on her. It's not because Ric Flair is the best friend and somewhat still a mentor to Triple H or anything like that. No. It's the fact that she's a homegrown WWE women's superstar. That's what she is. Nothing more. You know it. I know it. Anybody watching this knows it. That's why Charlotte's getting the special treatment. And again, with all due respect to Charlotte, I like Charlotte. I really do. I like Charlotte. I really do. But with all due respect to her, she needs this treatment that she's getting needs to stop. Because it's making all the other women superstars, both Raw and SmackDown Live, look bad. This needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. You want her to be the women's equivalent of the Nature Boy? Fine, that's great. But she's got more years ahead of her. What, just because she might seem and look a little older than some of the ladies, you think you gotta rush it? No, you don't. Look, let's face facts, okay? Let's face the honest facts. Trish Stratus didn't get her first women's championship until 2001, and she was with the company since '99. And guess what? When she retired from in-ring competition, she retired in what, 2006, I believe? 2006 or something like that? She retired, right? 2006, around that time frame? She retired. And what did she do? Within 7 years I should say, she became a 7-time women's champion. A record-setting 7-time women's champion. Okay? So Charlotte still has time to break her father's record. Or at least set the record for the most women's championship reigns by a single woman superstar. She has time. You don't have to rush it. So you can simmer down right now on this whole favoritism. Because you know what's going to happen is Charlotte's going to end up being injured. She's going to end up with an injury that doctors, your doctor, the WWE doctors, are going to say she has to step aside for such and such time, okay? That she can't compete. She can't be champion. You're going to have to rely on somebody else. Or the unthinkable, or not the unthinkable, but the foregone conclusion will happen or the foregone formality, I should say, will happen, and she might end up becoming pregnant. I'm just saying, it could happen. So what WWE needs to do is they need to knock off the favoritism. Vince McMahon needs to simmer down on it. Triple H needs to simmer down on it. They need to give people like Sasha Banks, Bayley, Nia Jax, even Alicia, and heck, if they bring her up to the main roster down the line, Asuka, and maybe even a returning Mickie James if she goes from that one NXT appearance in Toronto next week, or this Saturday, to a full return or part-time return to the main roster on Raw, give her an opportunity. Because you know why? You can't always depend on Charlotte. And again, like I said, she's got years ahead of her. It took Trish Stratus 7 years. 5 out of 7 years to get 7 world titles. Okay? You don't have to rush Charlotte. She's got many years ahead of her. So again, do I think WWE is trying to make Charlotte into a father? From a competitive standpoint? Absolutely. But I also think they need to simmer down on it. They need to simmer down, and they need to simmer down now. And that's really all I'm going to say on it. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. And I am out. I still got about... almost got a little over 40 minutes before I start. But let me know what you guys think down below.